when my father was no longer able to do commercial art with the very tight deadlines because of his heart attacks. He'd had a number of coronaries, and the stress of deadlines for commercial art and illustration. That's when he took up sculpting. And there was nowhere in Canada for my father to have his work cast into bronze. And he said to Don and I, "Could you start a foundry?" And we were young and foolish and said, "Of course." And 2 years later, we cast our first bronze. It took that long to establish our foundry, because when you start the first art foundry, there are no art foundry supplies in the Yellow Pages. So acquiring the materials took a long time, and there was no equipment available. So my father and Don would talk about what the equipment was to do, the kiln and the furnaces, and my dad would sketch the equipment, and then he and Don would go to a scrap metal yard, buy the scrap metal, weld it together, and we're still using the kiln and the furnaces that my dad and Don made themselves for our foundry. When you're the first art foundry in Western Canada, there were no art foundry supplies in the Yellow Pages. So we had to create the equipment ourselves.